Let's set the stage. It's 1967, and the Doors are riding high off their explosive debut album, a raw, psychedelic juggernaut that introduced the world to Jim Morrison's primal poetry and the band's hypnotic sound. But the summer of love is in full swing, and the music scene is a kaleidoscope of experimentation. Sgt. Pepper's had just dropped. Jimi Hendrix is setting guitars on fire. The Velvet Underground is smoldering in New York, and Pink Floyd is unleashing Piper on the world. The counterculture is buzzing, and the music world has shifted with it. The Doors, Jim Morrison, Ray Manzarek, Robby Krieger, and John Densmore, they didn't rest on their laurels from their massive debut. They dove into the studio with producer Paul Rothchild and engineer Bruce Botnick at Sunset Sound in Hollywood, crafting Strange Days, an album that's darker, weirder, and more experimental than their first. Released in September 1967, 8 months after their debut, this is the album that solidified the Doors as the poets of the psychedelic underground.
When you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're...
Welcome to Album Archives, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're stepping into the surreal, smoky haze of number 285, Strange Days by The Doors. Released in 1967, this record is a haunting trip through Morrison's mind, equal parts poetic, menacing, and cinematic. We'll explore its creation, its groundbreaking sound, its cultural impact, and why it still casts a spell today. So light up your incense, dim the lights, and let's get strange with The Doors. Why is Strange Days such a classic? It's The Doors at their most adventurous, blending blues, jazz, rock, and psychedelia into something wholly unique. The album opens with the title track Strange Days, a swirling, otherworldly anthem driven by Manzarek's eerie organ and Morrison's apocalyptic croon.
Strange days have found us. Strange days.
It's like a warning from a poet shaman, setting the tone for the album's unsettling vibe. Then you've got Love Me Two Times, a punchy, bluesy rocker with Krieger's sharp guitar riffs and a rhythm that swings like a pendulum. The lyrics hint at fleeting romance, but Morrison's delivery makes it feel urgent, almost desperate.
Love me 2 times, baby. Love me twice today. Love me 2 times, girl. I'm gone away.
Let's talk about a standout for me. People Are Strange. The track is pure Doors. Haunting, catchy, deeply weird. Morrison wrote it during a dark moment, feeling alienated by LA, and the lyrics capture that sense of being an outsider. Manzarek's carnival-like organ and Krieger's jazzy guitar give it a deceptively upbeat feel, but there's a shadow beneath it.
Strange faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange.
The song hit number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, proving the Doors could be both radio-friendly and profoundly unsettling. One recording fact, this was one of the first rock songs to use a harpsichord sound, courtesy of Manzarek's keyboard wizardry on a Vox Continental, showing how the band pushed boundaries, even in their poppier moments. Honestly, this tracklist is quite the wild ride. Moonlight Drive is a slinky, poetic gem, Morrison's vocals gliding over Krieger's slide guitar like a midnight cruise along the Pacific. When the Music's Over is an 11-minute epic that closes the album out, a sprawling, apocalyptic jam featuring a classic Jim Morrison rant about the end of the world, all while Manzarek's organ wails like a banshee. It's crazy. It's The Doors at their most theatrical, blending jazz improv with a raw rock energy. There's also Unhappy Girl, a short hypnotic track with a pulsing beat and Morrison's cryptic lyrics. At 40 minutes, Strange Days feels like a fever dream. Every song pulls you deeper into its psychedelic vortex.
Unhappy girl,
Thematically, Strange Days is a journey through alienation, desire, and existential dread. Morrison's lyrics are like pages from a beat poet's notebook, with tracks like You're Lost, Little Girl and I Can't See Your Face in My Mind. They explore love and loss with a surreal edge, while Horse Latitudes is a chilling spoken word piece inspired by a ship's crew throwing horses overboard to survive a storm. Wild stuff. The production, led by Paul A. Rothchild, is groundbreaking. The Doors were one of the first bands to use the Moog synthesizer, adding eerie textures to tracks like Strange Days. Recorded at Sunset Sound, the sessions were intense. Morrison was often drunk and erratic, but his raw energy fueled the album's dark magic. The band's whole chemistry, with Manzarek's keys, Krieger's guitar, and Densmore's jazz-inflected drums, created a sound that was both primal and futuristic.
You're lost, tell me who are you? Think that you know what to do.
Let's put 1967 in context. The music world was exploding. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band redefined what albums could be. Hendrix's Are You Experienced brought psychedelic rock to the masses, and bands like Jefferson Airplane were shaping the San Francisco sound. Strange Days stood out for its raw intensity and literary depth. It sold over 1 million copies and spawned 2 top 40 singles. Critics, like those in Rolling Stone, called it a darker, more introspective follow-up to their debut, though some felt it lacked the raw edge of the first album. However, its influence is massive, with bands like Joy Division, Iggy Pop, and even Radiohead have cited the Doors' ability to blend poetry with primal rock. And that iconic album cover, with its circus-like cast of characters in a New York alley, perfectly capturing the album's bizarre, theatrical vibe. Why does Strange Days endure? First, the songs are unforgettable, melodic yet menacing, catchy yet complex. Second, its sound, blending blues, jazz, and psychedelia with early synth experimentation. It feels both of its time and ahead of its time. Third, Jim Morrison. The man had charisma. His voice, part crooner, part shaman, it makes every track feel like a ritual. The album takes me back to my army days, beach parties between maneuvers and spinning classic rock vinyls in the barracks until late at night. We'd listen to when the music's over and feel like we were tapping into something cosmic, something bigger than ourselves. It's the kind of album that makes you want to write poetry or hit the road at midnight. One more note. During the recording of the spoken word Horse Latitudes, Morrison's intense performance freaked out the studio crew. He screamed and growled the poem while the band created chaotic sound effects, breaking glass, banging on metal, all to mimic a storm at sea. It was definitely a bold experiment that showed the Doors needed to push boundaries, even if it meant alienating some listeners. It's a deep cut in a moment in time of raw imagination and passion. Far out, man.
Awkward instant, and the first animal is jettisoned. Legs furiously pumping their stiff green gallop. And heads bob up! Poise!
If you haven't spun Strange Days lately, it's time to change that. Vinyl, CD, streaming, doesn't matter. It's a psychedelic masterpiece that's as haunting today as it was in '67. New to it, you're in for a trip through a world of shadows, poetry, and raw rock and roll. Delivered by 4 guys who made strange sound eternal. That's it for this edition of Album Archives. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend or leave a review wherever you listen. Next up is number 284, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. Check out the top albums list over on musicrewindpodcast.com to see where we're at and where we're headed. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time.
A podcast from the Sidereal Media Group. Back to you, anchors.